Hi there, this is Karen Stever, and I'm here with Frank Gryner at thepublicrecord.com. We've been hosting Stever's Public Playground Project, which is a community effort between musicians and artists from all around the world to help us build a song from the ground up. We just got through the drum phase of this portion with 33 people on the drum track. Unprecedented. We're just flipping out over that. It's awesome. We are moving on to guitars now. You're going to be playing guitars against the existing drum track that we have all put together. Today we want to talk about some of our thoughts on your approach to doing your guitars. So I want to start off talking today, Frank, about playing with those drums, playing the guitars with those drums.
Yeah, we need to play well with others on the playground. Now we have a drum track to consider. And I think you listen to this drum track and it's very easy to get overwhelmed with its complexity and just the length of the thing. The notion of being able to play one performance from top to bottom, I think, is maybe not the right approach. And what I would recommend is focusing in on a section, because more than likely we're going to be much the same way we constructed that drum track from everything that you guys had sent in. We're going to find the best of what you play. So if you focus in on, say, a chorus or a pre-chorus, and spend some time coming up with the best possible part.
You can also have a fresh energy doing that, right? Every time you
absolutely
put it down.
Yeah, because to me it would be too much to try in one pass to come up with this, the ultimate part.
Right.
So it's generally not the way it's going to go anyway.
So you've got a section, you've come up with your part.
Yeah, and I do something that I think can be real beneficial for you guys as well, is to use loop record. When you figured out what you want to do,
right.
What I do is I'll loop like a 2-bar or 4-bar section, say, for example, in the chorus, and the Pro Tools will just keep recording. It won't record over it. It'll
put it on playlist.
Yeah, it'll keep every take that I do in case I nail it and then I keep going and I realize I want to go back to it. But generally, I'll know when I got it, and it's good to have the thing in record because it's like when it happens, I want it to be recorded and I get to move on.
Now, and when you're coming up with that guitar part, a lot of times Frank and I will sit with acoustic guitars before we ever pick up an electric. And can we talk about some of the harmonic content here as far as coming up with the appropriate chord based on that piano note and based on that melody that's there?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think the tendency is to play guitar too soon when you're figuring out a part. I think it's really important to listen to the vocal and the guide piano note and formulate in your mind before you even play anything what you want essentially the part or chord to be, because I find that without doing that you have some preconceived idea of what chord you think it should be, when in fact there's some notes in that chord and maybe even the whole chord entirely clashes harmonically with that melody, and simply we can't use something that rubs
and a lot of the time,
vocal.
I've seen this happen a lot of the time. Guys at rehearsal halls will come in with a chord already before they've ever heard what somebody else in the band has come up with, and everybody's stuck on that chord and they just love it, love it, love it because they've been playing it all night long and it's seeped in their brain, or they came up with a solo the day before but the rhythm guy came up with different chords that are clashing all over the place. Everybody's like, no, but I love it, but I love it, but I love it. We don't want that to happen here either. So I think it's a good point you bring up, Frank, about listening.
Yeah, you should listen. I would do some, whatever section you're going to focus in on, listen to the vocal and that piano melody, piano guide note, just to get really familiar with what chords the song is calling out
absolutely.
For, as opposed to what you think you might want it to be.
And keeping in mind too, yeah, absolutely, and keeping in mind that there's going to be other things on this track later. There's going to be harmonies, there's going to be strings, there's going to be all sorts of other things that kind of are going to make up the sound. So we want to really establish something solid in that bottom end before we move on to those things. The other thing I want to talk about, Frank, is other ways that people can contribute.
Yeah, there's some other things that you can do. If you say, for example, if you are overwhelmed by trying to play like heavy guitars or anything like that, there's a lot of opportunities for other noises.
Much like the approach we took with the drums.
Yeah, like there's a first verse is a really good example of that's a place where we're probably not going to have any heavy guitars. It's a dynamic part that comes down, and doesn't mean that there is not an opportunity for guitar. It's just, I think you have to...
It's just the approach.
Yeah, like I think there's a great application for guitar feedback, like that we can put reverb on and it could be swimming in the background.
Right.
I love guitar feedback, and you guys who have your amp stacks or half stacks, like
that's an opportunity.
Doesn't Max Watts have his killer?
He always stands beside
stack?
One that's taller than him.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing that I got to say that you know, and I love and use a combination of both real and simulated guitar amps. Ultimately, usually on a daily basis, but you know, a real amp can give you that cool feedback, and you know, anything that we can do that provides
it could end up very isolated.
Yeah, provides some energy, some weird noises that you can make with your guitar.
And while we're on that topic, Frank, I want to clarify leads and solos over rhythm guitars and stuff, and kind of what the difference is.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a, you might say, you know, hey, if I do some feedback that ends up in the first verse, I mean, what, isn't that a lead? Well, kind of, but not. Like, it doesn't rely on the like another guitar to define what it's doing, like say a solo will in the instrumental section.
Right.
That's going to really depend on what the chords are underneath, and as much as you're sure that you like some chords that you put in that you're soloing over, that might not be what comes out of this.
Right.
It's going to come out of this phase. It's going to define what the chords are underneath that solo section. So then, only then are you going to know what is the appropriate lead to play over that. So that's why we've separated those parts.
And part of the reason why we have the process going this way is so that you guys can have a lot of fun, and it's very rewarding to play on top of something that's really solid. Like, I'm sure a lot of you guys feel way better playing against a drum track than you would a click track at home right now. The same's going to go for your solos. It's going to be awesome when you got a really, when we put together this chunky track that you can solo over top or do something instrumentally cool over, and it's really gratifying and quite rewarding.
Yeah.
So those are some of the tips from today that we thought we'd share with you, but keep at it and keep sending those submissions in. Loving a lot of the tone you guys are coming up with, some really original sounding tones that are already starting to come in.
Yeah, alright guys, so...
Okay, till next time,
rock on.